I want you to get together.
Hello, everyone. Today's the 6th of April to me. To you, it may be sometime in May as I'm away on holiday and away from the channel. I've pre-recorded a few videos to release while I was away, and this is one of them. And I want to discuss something today which comes off the back of a talk I had with JT, follows JC, and Alpha Talks in regards to the backlash that's happening surrounding this Millennial Kingdom theory. Now, when I first started looking into this particular topic, I never imagined it would lead to something as big as this. I did not see it coming. And to be honest, I actually avoided talking about this topic for a long time in hindsight. And I remember talking to one of my mods about this, saying, I don't know if I'm ready to venture away from the clowns just yet and start talking about this topic. Because I know as soon as I do start discussing the concepts involved, it's going to shift the focus of my channel drastically. And it's perhaps not good to have split focus, if you understand, while I'm writing a book about the Nephilim and clowns in particular, to then also start talking about architecture, eschatology, end times, theology, and where we stand in timelines. It's just such a disparaged, odd dichotomy, isn't it, for one channel to be talking about two such seemingly unrelated topics. But it did get to the point where I couldn't just be quiet anymore, because for many years, up until the point where I started talking about this just at the end of 2023, I had been watching many videos surrounding this topic and idea, slowly coming to terms with the possible reality that it was representing. Because I did spend many years, in that realm of believing that Jesus is just about to return at any moment. Tribulation was about to unfold before our very eyes. Death and destruction was about to come upon us all. The Antichrist would rise. The beast system would rise. The mark of the beast would come and people would become enslaved. And people would start being beheaded for their faith in Jesus Christ. I was prepared for all this type of stuff. The described end times, and that's the kind of stuff I was talking about. And you can go back in time to my channel and you see some very early videos where I'm talking about the possible mark of the beast candidates and the symbolism of the black goo in things, and just all the stuff they've been putting in the media, and how we can interpret this through an end times tribulation lens. So I was there for a while. I really was, and when I spent those few years from like 2020 to 2023 just coming to grips with this possible timeline manipulation and that we aren't actually there at all, but we're actually in the little season of Satan, it took me like 3 years to fully digest that concept. It really did. It took me a while to take it all in, and that's coming from somebody who has a prior 7 years experience to hearing about this, of all conspiracy theories and other mind-shattering, mind-altering perspectives, about the nature of reality too. So it wasn't like it was my first rodeo or anything discovering this topic, and even then, from somebody who thought he'd heard it all, it was still a tough pill to swallow. I remember the feeling. So while I did talk about these things on my channel and gained a lot of followers based on this topic, who wanted to hear more about it and seemed to, for some reason, just enjoy my random musings and rambles about the topic, and I realized it was kind of snowballing away from me, and maybe it still is by the time you guys are listening to this. I don't know, but it's got to the point now where I've somehow become like a voice or of leadership for this quote unquote movement. Do we call it that? I don't know what it is, and I didn't think I'd end up being in that position, because like I said, I was hesitant to discuss this because I kind of knew it would lead to something like this, because there weren't many voices, Christian voices at the time, really discussing it, and I felt like it was fading into obscurity by the time I started talking about it, because it had been around for a few years already and was really just remaining on the fringe. And I did feel like, I don't think this can stay on the fringe necessarily. I think it's too important of a concept or an idea for us to just leave on the side. So, I started talking about this topic, and I started talking to other channels who were also discussing this topic well before I was. And there seems to be a revival of it happening right now. In no small part to the efforts of many great channels out there who have kind of kept this subject alive and haven't let it just dissipate into the annals of obscurity. Just call it anything, because this is not an obscure idea, though it's still being treated that way by many who are clinging on to the tribulation eschatology of that we are currently living in the times just before tribulation. So I can see that there's a lot of backlash now. This is just in early April. We've had quite a few people already make the debunking videos aimed towards this idea. But the sad thing is that this isn't really one of those ideas you debunk or destroy somebody in debates with. It's just the words that are written down, and we have to think about the concepts and the possibilities that we could be the people living during that time. That's all it is. It's not like I struggle to see how this is something that can be debunked. Is what I'm saying, because this isn't. This is more than just wild speculation and a theory, and I understand while saying that how without a solid foundation first of a lot of knowledge on specific things, it would be difficult to jump to the conclusion I just made that this is pretty much undeniable. It would be difficult without a solid foundation of information to back up these claims first of all. Because I think to get there, to get to this belief system, and this is kind of what I'm angling at with this video, and someone was explaining in one of my comment sections on one of my comments on Telegram, they were trying to say, getting to this wasn't just an overnight thing, as I alluded to there with my 3 years of grappling with the idea before I kind of settled on understanding, it's a high possibility. Getting to this idea requires a lot of work first. It requires you, first of all, to understand that you have been lied to your entire life, and that humanity and the rulers of the world do have the capacity to seriously deceive people on a mass scale. But to get to that understanding, you have to do a lot of research first into conspiracy theories and all the control methods that have been used against us for centuries. And that, you need to carve out at least a good year of your life just to get through all that stuff. That's the basics, Let's just say the Illuminati controllers, that kind of thing, the basics. And then you have to start from there, start learning about the spiritual realm and the reality of spiritual warfare and the Nephilim and history, biblical history, and things like the flood. And then that can lead on to eventually cosmology, biblical cosmology, and how we've been lied to about the nature of not only history, but also of the shape and reality of our reality. And then you have to get into the weird stuff on the fringes of all these crazy rabbit holes for a couple of years too, discussing the malleability of reality with things like the Mandela effect, and human perception. And that mixed in with all the quantum physics stuff, as well as the astral realm stuff and the spiritual world stuff, all that on top of a foundation of getting to a good solid grip of biblical understandings of reality, the nature of Jesus Christ and what it means to be saved as well. So, just to learn all those basic foundational things about just how much we've been lied to and what the world really is, you need to have a good 3 to 4 years to get a good solid grip on all of that information. And even then, you'll still have a lot to learn, and will still be learning for the rest of your life. But that's just the basics. And then once you have all that in your mind already, it's easier to see how they could have lied to us about Jesus Christ ruling for 1,000 years already on earth. It becomes a lot easier. It becomes a lot easier, especially once you first dive into all the alternative histories, Tartarian architecture, Antiquitech stuff as well. So that's something. Think of all these other subgenre topics you have to discover first, just to get to the possibility of getting to grips with how it's possible that Jesus may have already returned. Okay, and it does come with a revisionist history mentality. The history we have been told is a complete and utter fabrication. And as we can see what it looked like, but the tales of what happened during those times are way off on the timeline they've told us, and did not happen where they said it did and when they said it did. But also the people involved are not who they claim they were actually involved in those stories. It gets really trippy, you know, and you realize it hasn't been that long perhaps since the crucifixion and resurrection of Christ and the establishment of his millennial reign. We may not be that far out of it, you know. It's certainly not 2,000 years. Who knows what it is? Who knows at all? You know, it's one of those. And again, as I say these things, I say it with empathy for those who really get angry at people like me even considering the idea, because I get it. I do. I get it. Because it took me 3 years. Like I said earlier, it took me 3 years to fully get to grips with this. And even then, when I started talking about it, I was like, this could be the case, guys. Maybe. I just don't think we can ignore it in case it is a possibility. I was still talking like that, and I still kind of do talk like that in a way, because it's dangerous to be 100% certain of things like this, you know, all the time. Sometimes we can get deceived. I am aware of that, you know. But at the same time, it just really does not feel like one of those deceptions. This feels like it is revealing perhaps the great deception, the greatest deception. And we see this through examples of how rapture theology, the mark of the beast, end times tribulation is about to unfold, get ready, brace yourselves, Jesus is about to return, theology is the mainstream allowed to be discussed in all seminaries and all churches and on TV belief system for Christianity. It's allowed. No one's pushing back against that. No one's fighting against it. Nobody. And I realize that this world shuts down people who start to actually talk about real, impactful truth. And whether that spiritually shuts down through spirits that work within people, through forced censorship due to disagreements, vehement disagreements, or demonic influence and anger and rage, or if it's a Kabbalistic, by that I mean like Kabbalistic, you know, coordinated effort from nefarious hidden hands to purposefully silence people. When you talk about the truth, usually you get some serious punishment for it. No good, no good deed goes unpunished in this realm, you know. And like I said, the people can pretty much get off scot-free with discussing tribulation theology, and even rewarded for it with extremely well-lined pockets as a result, and mega churches, you know, and perhaps even mega YouTube channels, with very little opposition or stagnation from the powers that be. Yet my channel, talking about this topic, I've seen the hand of the shadow, the ban shadow. You know, I've seen it. I see comments disappear and then reappear 2 days later when it doesn't matter anymore and the video's over with and done with, and I've probably moved on to another video. They stifle communication, and I've seen my videos sit at publicly visibly 300 views when in my own studio it says I have 3,000 for a day sometimes before it actually reveals how many views it actually has. Because I don't think it wants to encourage more people to think people are actually taking this seriously and then move on. And then once the system finally shows how many views are actually there, it doesn't matter. Nobody's going to see it anyway. Oh, really? And it's these subtle little things that happen because I don't think they have much to stick me on in terms of justifying strikes and things like that, you know. But I see the subtle hand behind the scenes of of the algorithms doing their thing to try and stifle whatever I talk about. I do. And it's not extreme, you don't get me wrong, but I know people tell me something's unsubscribed me from you. I get that quite a lot. People get automatically unsubscribed from me without them doing anything. Even my own wife has her comments hidden, and she's showing me in real time that this is happening. So I know it does happen. But then these other channels who get to spread the constant doom and gloom cycle of the end is about to be here, are you prepared type of stuff. Well, they just get to keep growing and growing and growing, and they get their views in the millions. So you do have to wonder, perhaps it's my conspiratorial mind coming through here, but I do have to wonder when I see that type of stuff happening. Maybe that is the case. Maybe I'm just being paranoid. Who knows? But time will tell. This is an interesting topic that it's not going away. It's not going away. This is going to snowball and grow and grow and grow and just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And these channels who have built their kingdom on sand, on shifting sands, you know, and not on the rock of truth, they are going to scramble and fight to try and keep this thing steady and upright, and everything they've built surrounding the tribulation theology, you know. And that comes with attacking people like me. And again, as I say this on the 6th of April, I don't know what's coming in the future, but I don't feel like I've seen the last of the attackers coming our way. These aren't the nefarious hidden hand attackers I'm talking about here, who are part of some secret societies purposely out there to deceive. These are just people who have a serious spiritual issue where they are blinded and prideful and hateful towards anybody who says anything that they disagree with, biblically speaking. And their initial reactions are of anger, disbelief, and accusation. And I feel like there's going to be more of that. And there's going to be loggerheads here. There's going to be fights happening. There's going to be there's shots are being fired across no man's land, across the bow, you know. And I've somehow ended up on the bloody front line blowing the whistle to tell people to get out the trench and go forward. And it's how did I get myself in this mess? Who knows? But I think it's too late to get myself out of it now. So I'm in it for the long haul. I'm here till the inevitable conclusion of wherever this is leading. But I do it all with, you know, a spirit of levity. I don't come at this with a good doom and gloom attitude. I think this is good news. It means the true end and the new heaven and earth is about to come. So, you know, rejoice in that. It's a new hope on its way, you know. And at the end of the day, we are told to pick up our cross and die for his sake. I never based my faith on the promise that I wouldn't get to suffer and I would get away with death. Physically speaking, I think we all have to die. And there's kind of no getting around that, unfortunately. And I know the blessed hope of many who think they get to rule with Christ for 1,000 years are going to think they're going to get to avoid that. But Jesus certainly didn't get to avoid it. But the good news is he conquered death and was resurrected. And we get to be resurrected too. So there's good news. Death is no longer the bleak end it used to be. And hopefully we get to be there with him in paradise after our own demise. And again, I know it sounds pretty rough on the surface, but when you actually listen to what that means, it's hope. You know, it's hope of things to come still. Which is why I always say this is not really a salvation issue, but I know those out there who will disagree with me and will want to tell me this is nothing but a salvation issue. But it depends. Does your theology tell you that the new heaven and earth came when the millennial reign began? Because if it does, you need to go back and read Revelations 20, because that's not what it says. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave that there. Thanks for listening, and as always, God bless.
I want you to get together